Well, welcome and good evening, you wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8, and this is Let's Play Crimson Gray Blind Part 4. Last time, despite a complete lack of survival skills on my part, I have yet to die a single time in this game. And I actually got a good ending, where everyone lived happily ever after. So, we are going to load some options. I'm also going to make sure that this is recording. It looks like it is. I'm going to load my most recent save and make another decision which will probably result in my death. We're not going to run away this time. I'm sorry, Lizzie, but no. Things are safe now. No one is going to steal me away from you. Okay. The encounter with Lizzie dampened his mood substantially, but he told himself that he was still correct, that they had gotten through a difficult time in their lives together and things were better now. After school, he got a call to go to Miss Smythe's office. He considered just not going at all. He wanted to spend the evening with Lizzie, but the note seemed urgent. When he arrived, he found Mrs. Smythe with a rather grim expression on her face. John, I hope you're doing all right after the incident. I understand that the boy who died was a friend of yours. They were all assholes. That felt like an eternity ago. But he realized that it was more or less true. He shook his head slowly. An old friend, but yeah, it's hard to believe. Well, I thought we should have a conversation. It's okay, Mrs. Smythe. I feel like I'm doing okay. There are other students who probably needed more help than me. I'm afraid I must insist. Lie down. He almost defied her then, but in the end decided to do as she asked. Therapy sessions always made him feel better. It couldn't hurt. No reason to draw attention to himself or Lizzie after all. Is the teacher going to kill us? Oh my God. Were you the person that killed... Alright, what do you want to talk about? My feelings about the incident? No, there's no time for that today. I did not see this coming. I did not expect the teacher to kill me. I need you to relax immediately. John began to settle back onto the couch, letting her words become a meaningless hum. And for the first time, he realized how wrong that was. He lay there apparently relaxed as he tried to think back to the past therapy sessions. The more he thought about them, the more he realized an ominous pattern. He could barely remember any details. They would chat for a while, and the rest of their session was just a white haze. You've been drugging me? Ready? I need you to remain calm and come with me. Is that what the Paxitine's been fucking doing to me? She spoke flatly as if she expected to be obeyed without question. Was this some sort of hypnosis? Was this because of the fucking Paxitine? Well, realizing she might get upset, John slowly got to his feet. He wasn't sure how he was supposed to act, but he settled for a straightforward obedience. Delayed response. Have you been taking your Paxitine lately? He gave a half shrug and just stared back at her. Miss Smythe frowned, then shook her head and gestured for him to follow. I suppose it doesn't matter. All of this is normal. You want to follow me and await instructions. John had no choice but to do as she left the building? But inside he was panicking. What was he supposed to do now? He had seen Lizzie. He could have begged her to follow his eyes, but he didn't even see a hint of her, not even watching him from around the corner? They walked outside and to the parking lot where Miss Smythe opened the passenger seat door of her car and gestured for him to get in. He stepped inside and tried to keep the tension off his face. Instead, just staring forward? What the fuck? Is this recording? Yes. Okay. They didn't drive very far, just to a warehouse a few blocks from the school. It looked half abandoned, but when their car approached, the gates and then one of the garage opened for her? What? Inside, there were multiple armed men in gray body armor. He didn't see any insignias on them. or any indication of who they worked for. Why don't you take a seat, John? He got out of the car to obey, only then spotting a blank white table and 2 chairs placed in the center of the warehouse floor. Sitting down, he tried to stare blankly at the table, even as he analyzed what it held. There were 2 metal briefcases, and just to make things strange, a box of surgical gloves. What is happening? Remain calm, but focus on me, John. You're aware of your surroundings, but willing to accept what I say. Not the most elegant of lies, but it seemed to work. Miss Smythe barely even glanced at it, instead putting on a huge pair of surgical gloves. We brought you here for your own protection, John. I'm afraid your girlfriend is not who you believe she is. Lizzie, what's the problem? Is she okay? I'm afraid not. Not even close. Years ago, Koitek was an innovative company on the very forefront of biochemical research, but I'm afraid some of the company's founders were less than ethical. What does any of this have to do with us? Shut up, I'm getting there. Testing standards were rather lax. In particular, there was a certain test of a mood drug that should probably never have been certified. Dozens of lawsuits were settled for families that suffered the test. That is right and good. Koitek acknowledged the mistakes of the past. Unfortunately, some of those mistakes were more enduring. 4 pregnant women participated in the test without disclosing their pregnancies. They were, of course, removed as soon as their condition was realized, but it was too late for the embryos. One became completely non-viable and was stillborn. There is conflicting evidence around the second, but it appears the boy may have committed suicide at a young age. But we are concerned with the last 2. One of them was the murderer, who the police put down last night, and the last was Lizzie Doss. Huh? You're saying Lizzie had some kind of condition? Early investigations suggested both girls turned out normal, so the matter was closed, but recent events make it seem very likely that both of them were very deeply disturbed. Well, you are right, but this is not the way to handle it. It's kind of like apparently Lizzie turned out to be right about you guys being fucking insane shit too, but again, she didn't handle it correctly. I'll be blunt, the girl is not remotely stable. Neither are you! She's a danger. But they really think that would work? That he would just nod and accept the story of the guards all around them, armed paramilitary forces? Then again, perhaps she was counting on her therapy to have a controlling effect. Either way, all he could do was keep up his act. There was no doubt truth in what she was saying, and he needed to learn more. Then, what do you want me to do? Why can't all your guards take care of it? John, we don't want to hurt the girl, not at all. We want to help her. We would prefer she came in quietly. The implicit threat hung in the air. John swallowed and nodded. Then what am I supposed to do? The girl trusts you. If you can administer a sedative to her, then we hope we can medicate her without any unnecessary struggling. I don't know if I can trust you. Mrs. Smythe opened the first metal case, showing him a number of metal syringes filled with disturbingly bright liquid. They looked like chemicals that would melt metal, not ones that should go into anyone's body. If you are receptive to our plan, we will provide you with a variety of options. We have extra strength sedatives here, for example. However, based on the incident yesterday, I personally believe we may need a more extreme option. I would advise you to use this one. Her fingers brushed the last syringe in the briefcase, one filled with a bright red liquid. This is a modified version of the chemical that Lizzie was exposed to in the utero. Wouldn't that be really dangerous? Or the right path? What is that smile? Have you also been taking the unethical, crazy drugs? Why is the music trying to kill me now? Her body can barely handle the level of exposure she already received. An additional dose should lock her down entirely. That sounds like death. That's not a sedative, that's death. Those aren't synonyms. They don't mean the same thing. Your smile is kind of malicious. And you expect me to convince her to be injected or something like that. It does not have to be injected intravenously. Autopsy of the other girl indicates the chemical has a substantial effect on muscle tissue, so an injection into any muscle would be effective. Autopsy, this was more of a conspiracy than he imagined, but there was no time to reel from that now. John simply nodded as if vaguely reasonable. Well, I want her to get help that she needs. Are you sure this won't hurt her? Let me be honest with you, John. There will likely be some pain for her as the body rejects the chemical, but it may be the only way to ensure that she harms no one and cooperates with treatment. I see. But still, what the fuck was that smile? He sat forward and held his head in his hands, as if he needed to think, which he desperately did need to do. Would they really just give him syringes and let him go? He doubted it. At the very least, they'd be keeping him under heavy surveillance. Talking directly to Lizzie would be impossible. In fact, he had to wonder if everything Miss Smythe was saying wasn't just a backup plan. It might be no accident Lizzie was missing. Maybe they were looking for her. But ultimately he didn't have enough information, and he didn't see a way of getting to the point he needed to reach so many security forces present. Smythe, headquarters, hasn't responded. Damn it, we'll just proceed with the plan then. No, it's not that. We seem to have lost our connection. Then this case is completely under my authority, John. We're counting on you to end this without anyone else getting hurt. I hope I can do that. You can, I'm sure of it. Then should I? At that point a radio crackled. One of the soldiers raised a walkie-talkie and tapped the button. What was that? Perimeter. Attack! Repeat, under attack. Shit, directly? Alright, switch to plan C, get moving. The soldiers rushed to obey. John rose with them. Surely had to be Lizzie attacking them. But what did that mean? How is one 18-year-old girl attacking a corporation? I need to save. They're very generous in the amount of saves. Soldiers rushed to obey, and John rose with them. Surely it had to be Lizzie. I already read this. This is... wow. It's a very interesting story. He only got one step before two soldiers grabbed his arm and forced him back in the chair. He struggled, but they were adults far stronger than he was. I'm sorry, John, but it looks like you'll have to serve as bait. As she spoke, she opened up the second metal case. This one held syringes filled with clear liquid, one which she lifted and examined. Miss Smith, what are you doing? This is going to hurt, I'm afraid. But if she's snapped, this is all you're good for now. He tried to struggle even harder, but the soldiers had gotten him strapped into the chair, bound in place. He was helpless to do anything but twitch as Miss Smythe approached with the needle. Before he could do anything to stop her, she injected it straight into the vein of his arm, and the pain was instant. His world went white, and his ears rang so loudly he could barely see or hear anyone. Miss Smythe was desperately giving orders, and the soldiers were moving about, but he couldn't understand any of it. He had never felt anything so painful before. His thrashing partially tore one of the straps behind him. Then he slumped down with agony still washing through him. Through the pain, he dimly saw Lizzie arrive and slaughter the remaining soldier. Is it a fucking super strength serum that they were making for the military? What the? She seemed heavily injured, but it didn't stop her erratic, deadly movements. Lizzie had Mrs. Smythe pinned down. She was saying something but couldn't hear over the rushing in his ears. It felt like his heart was going to bust in every beat. Distantly, he realized that Lizzie was threatening Mrs. Smythe and torturing her. Whatever was said, it didn't matter. He fell away into a blazing white pain. He faded back into reality with cool hands on the sides of his face, piercing through the agony all around him. Somehow he managed to open his eyes despite the pain. Lizzie's lips moved, but he couldn't hear anything. He realized that she was crying and didn't understand why. All he wanted was for the pain to stop. She leaned forward to kiss him. I will save over this because I did not make any decisions. She leaned forward to kiss him, and the kiss was sharp and cold. He kissed back for a long time before he realized that her axe had entered his chest? Why did you stab me? It felt cool, almost pleasant. What, is she euthanizing me? Like, am I injected with something that's permanently fucked me? The burning hot light around him began to fade to darkness. The last thing he saw before it all fell away was Lizzie. He tried to say goodbye, but it was too late. What? Okay, I die, but I don't understand why. I mean, you didn't give me a choice there. Well, that file is a no-go. Oh. Okay, so I've already been here. I'll just click this and go to load. Oh, I'm back at this point. Okay, well, let me double check to make sure it's recording. Okay, I will tell her the truth this time, even though I know apparently she's a psychopath as well. Actually, she's worse than Lizzie. Actually, I'm afraid of Lizzie. She's, I don't know what, but there's something really wrong with her. Afraid? Are you concerned she might harm you or someone else? Has she issued an actual threat? John, I'm not trying to dismiss your concerns, and John, in fact, I'm very willing to act on them. However, without evidence, it might be better to contact a different authority. Cointech has measures that... Oh, Lizzie was listening! John, why? Why would you betray me? Lizzie, then you lied to me. I thought I could trust you now. Stop that. While Lizzie had been focused on him, Mrs. Smythe had been quietly removing something from her desk. She hesitated when Lizzie looked at her, but then kept moving. This is your fault. You want to take him away from me. Now, Lizzie, calm down. There's no need to make wild accusations. We can all... Lizzie leapt across the room, her knife flashing at Mrs. Smythe's throat. To John's shock, the older woman actually dodged back out of the way of the slash. Not only that, but her hand came up from her desk carrying a syringe as she attempted to plunge straight into Lizzie's chest. But Lizzie was faster, bringing the knife down on the other one's wrist. Miss Smythe gave a cry of pain, then dropped the syringe, and then it was all too late. And now there's blood. Lizzie's next slash went straight through her throat, carrying a spray of blood with it before the rest began to flow down her neck. And at this point I feel desensitized to the smile of creepiness. Or does it just feel more normal with the blood? I don't know. Lizzie turned toward him slowly. Her face was covered in blood, but he was more concerned about the emptiness growing in her eyes. I should have just ended it quietly. We could have been happy. Lizzie, what are you doing? I'm sorry, John. There's nothing else I can say to you. She rushed at him just as she had known she would, but he didn't have the energy to dodge. It didn't matter. She was going to get him in the end anyway. It hurt, but not as much as she had been expecting. He stared at the blood flowing down his body with no real emotion. Weeping, Lizzie leaned forward to kiss him. Her lips were strangely warm. No, it was just that his body was growing warm as the blood rushed out of it. The warmth increased, dissolving what remained of his thoughts, and then it was very cold, but not for long. Dead! I'm going to be seeing this screen a lot. Load. Hint! But yeah, so Lizzie was listening the whole fucking time during my fucking therapy. Wait a second. But if you were listening, then were you not around that one time? It's hard to put my finger on. What you said earlier got me thinking. I'm not sure I feel safe all the time. But you still are dating, I guess. And it probably isn't too serious. If she still has a severe condition, she probably wouldn't be able to form normal bonds at all. Miss Smythe, do you know something I don't? Just thinking out loud. Apparently Miss Smythe thought he was doing better, because she ended the session early and let him go home. On his way out, he spotted Lizzie watching from the shadows. He smiled at her and she smiled back, but that was all. And for now, that was enough. John started walking. Is this a different path? The school year got away from him despite everything they'd been through. Skip! Oh, but before she could answer, so this is different. Several unmarked vehicles drove up right onto the fairground. Okay. The men that emerged from them wore blank uniforms that meant nothing to John but immediately filled him with a sense of dread. In a matter of minutes, they were everywhere. The police were patrolling more seriously. Strange men had taken over the crime scene, and the atmosphere had become tense. John, we should go? Exactly. She went with him to his door and kissed her goodnight, but then they both knew things weren't alright, not yet. A cloud of uncertainty. Can I skip here? There is no skip option anymore. In the morning, for once, John felt brighter than everyone else. The school had a flag half-mast morning, and a class was cancelled so they could have a special assembly about the incident. There is no longer a skip! Of course, even as Bryce, he didn't exactly look happy, so no one gave him a second thought. After school, he received a note from Miss Smythe saying he would come in and talk to her about how he felt about the whole thing. Not really, but he appreciated the concern. Hi. Lizzie's here. They're both here? Lizzie sat in a chair, obviously uncomfortable, while Mrs. Smythe sat nearby, sorting through several bottles of Koitek drugs. Ah, John, glad you could make it. Sure, why is Lizzie here? There's a lot of traumatized couples in the wake of the incident. I thought I should do some counseling so no one makes decisions they regret. Oh, thank you, but is that really necessary? While he spoke, he managed to catch Lizzie's eye. All he saw there was uncertainty, but she was hard to read. Go ahead, John, sit down. I hope this hasn't been too hard on you. I'm managing, it's hard to believe. The reality will probably set it increasing over time. I think it might actually be good to increase your dosage. Why does he need to take more? Lizzie, you have to understand, John isn't well. There's nothing wrong with him, he just needs a little help. That's true. Though now that you speak up, Lizzie, have you ever considered taking medications yourself? Your behavior could probably use some normalizing. What is that supposed to mean? I'm talking to her, not you. Lizzie, would you be willing to take a few medications? Yeah, okay. I was afraid of this. What? Afraid of what? Without warning, Miss Smythe stuck Lizzie's arm with something that glinted of silver. He only saw a glimpse of what looked like a syringe, for Miss Smythe pulled back, and it was hidden in her sleeve. The effect on Lizzie was instantaneous. She grimaced and dropped on the floor. Gripping her arm, John tried to go to her, but Miss Smythe knew to stop him. You should stay away. She isn't stable. What the hell did you do to her? There is nothing but a confirmation of what I already suspected, John. I'm sorry, but Lizzie is not a normal girl. Shut up, don't say that. No, you don't understand. She was exposed to the same chemicals as the murderer last night. Without heavy medication, there's no way she can be normal. But she said she would take it. She lied. I don't know how, but she somehow gained a degree of stability. Without any moral compass, that makes her far more dangerous. I'm sorry, John, but she needs to be sedated for her own good. A sedative? Maybe for you. Laughing wildly, Lizzie lunged forward. Her knife flickered out and stabbed Miss Smythe's chest. The older woman stared in shock, struggling with Lizzie's arm, but couldn't prevent the second stab, or the third, or the fourth, or the 27th, or the 67th. John could only stare in horror as Lizzie stabbed her over and over again. It's like, holy shit! You stabbed him 39 times! Would have been 68, but the damn knife broke off in his spine. His mind was completely and utterly blank. Yeah, it's called shock! She still stabbed repeatedly. Lizzie looked up at him. She gave a tearful smile, broken by the occasional laugh. I'm sorry, John. It's too strong. It's in my mind. Lizzie? What's going on? The drug she gave me. I won't be able to hold back if I stay. I'll hurt you. I couldn't live with myself if that happened. I'm sorry, John. I have to go away. Away, but do you love me, John? Yes, I love you, Lizzie. I'm so happy. I love you too. Forever. And then Lizzie sliced through her own throat. John stared horror as her body slumped to the ground, light going out of her eyes. He wasn't sure how long he stood there. Somehow, by the time they found him, he was holding her body and weeping. He couldn't feel the tears or hear anything they said. The events of the following days barely penetrated the gray fog filling his mind. There was an investigation. He was declared just a victim. Everyone offered him sympathy that they had never offered before. And he didn't care. Everyone chose to forget about the string of murders and got back to their lives. Well, I mean, it's how people survive. Leaving him kneeling with her body until the world was nothing but an endless gray. I feel like that should be an achievement. It is! Not like this. Hope glimmers stronger on another path. Restart the game for a better result. Load. Skip. Ask for more drugs. Well, I feel like it's not enough. Can I get a double dose? We don't recommend that. What I can do, however, is prescribe you a much stronger formulation of Paxtane. Does that sound fine? Yeah, okay. I wouldn't normally do this, but you've been responsive to normal formulation, so hopefully this will improve your condition further. She gave him a new bottle of pills. They looked basically the same as the old ones, and even the label wasn't much different. But he would take whatever he could get. Within a week, he already felt different. Not better. As if all his emotions had been flattened into a single gray line, leaving him impervious to the world. And that's the thing, he's not happy. It's just the medications numbed him. So yes, he's not going to feel the deep valleys of depression, but now it's impossible for him to feel the happiness at all. In some ways, it was comforting. He never woke up too depressed to move, and did his work every day. I don't know, I sometimes use a lot of fast food that way. Sometimes I have trouble going to sleep, I'll eat a bunch of fatty foods, because it's the only time I can actually get to sleep. And other times, like when I'm going to work, I'll have a bunch of caffeine and sugar and candy bars, and because it keeps me calm. It makes me feel better. And honestly, a lot of times at work, if it's already a struggle sometimes, just to fight the urge just stop everything entirely, just lay on the ground and do nothing. Just in the middle of my work, just even though there's everything going on, I just want to stop everything, give up, and just lay catatonic on the floor. But I don't, and a lot of times eating a bunch of sugary snacks seems to help me to get through the day. He never woke up happy, but the longer he was on the medication, the less he cared about it. The one thing that bothered him at the beginning was that his thinking seemed to have been flattened as well. Only a trickle of mundane thoughts occupied his mind. In time, that seemed like enough. After all, it was easier not to think about what Lizzie had done to him, or about how she was acting more and more erratically now. John. I feel like the John I know is slipping away. You aren't going to say anything anymore, are you? Then, it's better for our love to end like this than to just fade away. He saw her raise a knife and felt a flicker of some emotion. But it was too late. He was too tired, and his world was just too gray. Oh, damn! Honestly, there are times I actually do feel that way. And I'm not sure if taking an antidepressant would just make it worse and make me go more this route. And I know some antidepressants work by, they can help, but they increase motivation before they fix feelings of depression, which just tends to make people, like, they have more motivation to do something, but it's to act on their depression of killing themselves. So every brain works differently, everyone, both psychologically and physically. And there's lots of different chemicals, and everyone's chemical composition's different. Her knife entered his chest, and he felt it. It was the first thing he had felt in a long time. John clutched at his wound, but he couldn't stop the bleeding. Lizzie turned the knife on herself and plunged it into her own chest. Leaving it there, she leaned forward and kissed him on the lips. Then she slumped over, dead before he was, as if her purpose for existing was gone. He lay there staring at her until even the sight of her body faded away to nothing. Not a separate achievement. Okay, well that's everything from that path. Well, let's go to this one. I'm glad the skip option's a thing. Oh, this goes back to this. I'll click lie, and then I will go to load. And I will go to the hatchet scene. Again, while you were technically right about the evil pharmacy corporation, this is not how you handle this. You know, talk to me rationally. This is not how you handle it. I will reason with you and get stabbed. Lizzie, think about this. Do you think controlling like this will bring us together? You'll forgive me. It's more important you understand. But you said it yourself. You're not sure how you're going to make me understand. Shouldn't you try talking to me first? I need to think. Maybe that wouldn't work, but he hoped it stuck with her. She could reason, even in a strange way. Maybe he could get through to her. Lizzie paced around the room for a while, muttering under her breath, then suddenly straightened. Well, I mean, I'm at skip, so apparently. Okay, so I will look for tools. His table had been placed to be out of reach of the weapons lining the wall, but that put him close to the other wall. John managed to get around the table to it and examining them. There was a metal cupboard that appeared to be locked, but he looked through the rest. There was a toolbox that he thought was locked at first, but eventually he realized was only stuck. After enough effort, he got it open and looked through it. Most of it was random aging tools, but he found a screwdriver that looked to be in good shape. Could he use this to escape? He saw several possibilities, but at that moment he heard Lizzie return. It was too late. Though Johnny spent all of Saturday tense, Lizzie showed no signs of intending to hurt him. That night she brought a mattress and bedding. Oh, I'm at the point of skipping again. Okay. I will lie about my old medication. Afraid she might be trying to drug him, John struggled to remember other medications he tried. He mentioned a few names of ones that hadn't seemed to have much effect on him. Lizzie nodded, but there was an emptiness to her eyes. When she went upstairs, she didn't leave the house, just paced about erratically. When she brought him food, she smiled, but her eyes were hard. John tried to beg her, but she refused to answer. What the hell was with her paranoia? Did she hate Koitek because of her mother? He had no answers, and Lizzie left him alone. Without her to distract him, he only slid deeper into depression. After lunch on... Okay, I'm back to the part where I can skip. Personally, he couldn't get any into the movie at all. The greatness of everything around him drained the satisfaction from the activity. When it finally ended, Lizzie gave a small smile that he thought represented authentic satisfaction then. Oh. Skip. Though he was feeling even more depressed than before, John had enough perspective to realize they wouldn't make progress like this. He needed to shift things somehow. But what should he say? Try to leverage the last few friendly days into... I can skip again? Morality, go! Hey, do you mind if I ask a random hypothetical question? Ask anything you want. Say a train is running down a track and it will kill 5 people. You can pull a lever to switch the train to another track where it will only hit 1 person. Do you pull it? Who are the people on the tracks? That's not supposed to matter. It's just hypothetical. Random people. No one you know. I don't pull the lever. I would leave. He had a feeling he knew what she was going to say, but say I'm on the first track and the train is heading toward me. If the lever would make the train hit 5 other people instead, would you pull it? Yes. Immediate answer. Absolutely no hesitation. But that's actually not unhealthy for a relationship. But the whole basement dungeon thing is, yes, it's very bad. What if there were 10 people? The number doesn't matter to me, John. I would kill 100, 1,000. And then I would go to find the person who put you on the track and kill her. Why'd you think it was a woman that put me on the track? Is this world populated by nothing but yanderes? And the train conductor, and everyone on the train who didn't help. I don't know if they even know. Like, I've been on trains. You don't even see what's on the track. If my only choice was to switch the train to come hit me, I would do it. I would do anything. Lizzie, I don't want you to kill yourself for me. Aw, you're so sweet, but no, you have to survive. I want us both to be together forever, but if I can give my life to save yours, it would be worth it. Okay. How would you answer that question if a teacher asked it? One already did last year. I pretended to be flustered and said I couldn't pull the switch. So you do understand how most people view this. I'm aware of how they think, but I don't understand it. What they think doesn't really matter to me. But if I say the wrong things, people will interfere in my life. So I've had to learn to say the right things. I did that with you too, John, at first, because I was afraid you wouldn't love the real me. You can be yourself, just not with the threats and the violence and the lack of personal safety or boundary respecting. But you will eventually, I'm sure of it. That made things a little uncomfortable for the rest of the day, but John hoped that if he ever did somehow get strapped to train tracks, Lizzie was the one nearby. Well, that feels like it's just dark humor. He woke up in a foul mood, half depressed, half angry. Lizzie was watching him with a concerned look on her face. Are you sure I can't bring you medicine, John? If you're not going to bring me Paxatine, then there's no point. This displeased her, and it really didn't want to go down the road, so John cast a topic to distract her. That reminds me, I've been meaning to ask you. Oh yeah, we're back to the Skippies. Could there be any validity to what she said? These days it took all the energy he had just to interact with Lizzie. He was declining, and declining fast. Regardless, for now, he needed to take stock of his options and take action where he had opportunity and energy for it. He felt like he spent too much time thinking to make an escape attempt, but maybe he could accomplish something else. Using the screwdriver he had found earlier, John began to work on the metal cupboard. The lock appeared to be a simple one, and he could just wedge the screwdriver between the doors. He was afraid he'd make marks that Lizzie might notice, but the cupboard was already a battered old thing. After a lot of tedious poking at it, John was starting to worry he wouldn't accomplish anything. Then out of nowhere, he managed to budge the latch just a little. Filled with new energy, John kept jabbing at it, occasionally pushing it just a little further. Eventually, he managed to open the cupboard. It made a painfully loud sound, but he was fairly confident Lizzie wasn't back yet, and now he could finally see the tools inside. His first feeling was that he had wasted his effort. Most of the tools were useless things like rakes and mops, but then he spotted it leaning in the back, a crowbar. It was a little old, but it looked sturdy. But through the legs of the table were metal, the joints to the top weren't strong. Maybe if he struck it with the crowbar, he could bend it a little. The idea filled him with hope, but he rejected it, trying immediately. He had wasted too much time, and there would be no way to hide an action like that. He needed to escape just after Lizzie left. Instead, John replaced the crowbar. closed the cupboard, and then returned to his seat, hoping the fact that it was unlocked wasn't too obvious. On Friday, John woke up stretched. I can go back to the skipping. I forget what I am. Oh, the kissing thing's not an option. Oh, so I had to do the romantic stuff to make the... I don't know what I'm agreeing to. I will just agree. Good. But you would pick up a knife to hurt other people, wouldn't you? Yes. To protect you, I would do anything. I would kill anyone. You see, this week has already helped. Before, I might not have told you the truth there. And that would have been so horrible. Well, I mean, technically that's not unhealthy. You know, if you love somebody and someone tries to hurt them, it's not unhealthy to be willing to kill to save them. But you shouldn't be so enthusiastic about it. You know, killing should still be a absolute last resort, something that is still painful, even if it's a bad person. It's, you know, conscience. You know. The story of the ellipses. You won't reject me because of that. I don't want you to hurt anyone. I know in your head it must seem necessary, but I wish I could make it so you don't have to hold a knife at all. Aw, that's so sweet. But you're too kind, too kind. I should be the one taking care of you. And you shouldn't worry about me. Maybe you don't have to be down here too much longer, but you will stay for now, John, please? He nodded, as if he had a choice. And Lizzie beamed. That day, when she cut the vegetables in front of him, her knife seemed to move even faster than usual. And John realized, even if it was crazy to think it, that he really wasn't afraid. Which didn't mean he thought he was actually safe around her, but for now, at least he didn't think fear was the right response. On Saturday, back to the skipping part, use crowbar to escape shackles. John carefully retrieved the crowbar and then stood by the table for a while, just trying to motivate himself enough to actually do it. Eventually he decided he didn't have a choice. He couldn't come this far and back down. He took a deep breath and pulled back and swung. His first blow glanced off uselessly, and he nearly gave up then, but he forced himself to try again. This time the table creaked. Blow after blow, he slowly bent the table leg inward. It made a horrible noise, but that just motivated him to hit harder. There was no hope of going back now. At last, the table leg inward at an awkward angle. John dropped the crowbar and bent over, catching his breath. He knew he should be able to check to see if it was enough, but now he didn't want to. Eventually, he bent down and tugged the shackle attached to the table leg. With enough tugging, he managed to pull it off. And then he was free! Maybe. Suddenly unable to deal with the uncertainty, John grabbed the loose chain so he wouldn't trip over and rushed for the stairs. Yes, the door was unlocked. He stepped in the hallway, took a breath. Lizzie might have locked the front door, but he could always break a window if necessary. But now that he had gotten this far, John hesitated. What now? Making a save because I feel like they're about to do another choice thing. Yep. Why would I stay in the basement? Well, we're doing it. John set the screwdriver and crowbars on the table, then repositioned his chair directly in the center of the basement. When he heard Lizzie enter, he sat down facing the door, making the unhooked shadow obvious. Basically saying, hey, see this? I could have escaped if I wanted to, but I didn't. Lizzie came down the stairs not long after, a smile on her face, and then she saw him, and her expression became utterly blank. Hello, Lizzie. Aha, you stayed. I didn't have to do this. I didn't have to do this. I'm not... What? Wait. I didn't have to do this. This is my fault. Ha 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 ha. Lizzie, calm down. Please don't get upset. But I kidnapped you. And yes, you did. And you made multiple implicit threats of killing me. You know, that's lots of coercion. Coercion does not a healthy relationship make. She was stumbling toward him, and he tensed when she reached behind her. But after pulling her knife from her waistband, she set it down on the table. I almost ruined the only thing I had. I'm sorry, John. I'm sorry. And lots of sorries. The pain in her words was heartbreaking. Lizzie began to crumble. Bending over with her backpack arched painfully, he moved to wrap his arms around her, to keep her from curling against herself. Why? Why are you so kind? Lizzie, I don't want to hurt you either. Please calm down. Why did you stay? Why? Because I trust you, Lizzie. And I would like you to trust... I would like to trust you more. You don't have to do anything like this. I won't leave you. I just want you to be happy, to smile sweetly, and say I love you, and I do love you, with everything I am, but there's so much of everything. It's okay, Lizzie. Let out what you feel. Aha, I can't believe you stayed. I can't believe you're holding me. Ah ha 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 ha. Oh God! Oh, worrying. That's... This is, it's concerning. Still in his arms, Lizzie unleashed peal after peal of insane laughter. There was an unearthly quality to it that made his skin crawl, but John just held onto her tighter and closed his eyes. Eventually, laughter faded, and she was still there. The tension in her body had dissipated, leaving her resting against him. When she looked up into his eyes, there was a sweet love there, and also an intensity. He had never seen both of them in her at the same time, and it made him shiver involuntarily, but not necessarily in fear. John loves me. Yes, I do. I won't leave you. I never thought it could be like this. This is who I am. I thought I would calm down if you loved me, but now I feel so alive. I don't know what to do with these feelings. That's okay, Lizzie. I'll stay with you, and we can figure it out together. Then, please kiss me, John. He bent over and kissed her gently. She kissed back, gently at first, but then almost viciously. He tasted blood in their kiss, and wasn't sure whose it was, but he didn't pull away. You're doing it wrong! The kiss was wild and unhinged, like everything in your relationship. Unlike any of his fumbling romances of the past, Lizzie's fingers dug into his back, and she kissed him until she had to pull back, gasping for breath. Thank you, thank you. Her eyes had softened again. He knew the intensity was still lurking underneath the peace he saw on the surface, but it no longer frightened him. He felt like he should say something, but couldn't find the words. After a moment, he realized that Lizzie had fallen asleep. After a moment of uncertainty, he decided to carry Lizzie up the stairs. She was much lighter than he expected, and he didn't have a hard time taking her to bed and tucking her in. Lying there, she looked almost angelic. He knew she wasn't, and honestly, he didn't want her to be. John realized that he had stepped over a line, and there was no going back. For now, he felt emotionally wrung out. He went to the couch and fell asleep almost immediately. Good morning, John. She was right there, watching when he woke up. He gave her a soft smile. Good morning, Lizzie. There, one more day before our vacation over. Would you like to do something? Well, I think we've spent more than enough time in here. Do you want to go out somewhere? Yes, I would like that. And possibly after all that, their date went completely normally. Lizzie seemed more relaxed than he had ever seen her, enjoying herself whether they were walking or eating or just sitting on the bus. She cast him frequent glances, but though they held an intense devotion, the desperate edge he had seen there was gone. After so long in the basement, he was glad to stretch his legs and feel the sunlight. It seemed insane that all of that had really happened. But for now, he felt too much of a cathartic rush to feel any concern. When the day was finally over, they returned to her house. She didn't invite him in. Instead, they just lingered at the edge of the property. John, I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything. We can talk about it later. Then I'll see you tomorrow, okay? Yeah, see you soon then. He watched her go and turned around and walked back to the bus stop alone. The entire ride back, he tried to think about his experience, but couldn't even begin to grasp everything that had happened. When John got home, he found the door undamaged. Back to the skipping part. Okay. In the morning, John felt like he had been scraped raw. It was uncomfortable, but better than carrying the baggage. Would having his meds help, or just make things worse? It was impossible to know for now, but he wanted to find out. When he went to school, he would ask Miss Smythe her opinion. Back to skipping. Wow, it's in different orders. Lie. Okay, so it's slightly different. His time with Liz was strange. At times she was even sweeter and more devoted than before. But occasionally she showed flashes of something else. Once, when a classmate happened to smile at him, Lizzie explained at length about how she wanted to dismember the other girl one limb at a time. John just held her and stroked her hair. Maybe he was going crazy, but he no longer minded those parts of her. He much preferred Lizzie to the one who had tried to hide her true nature from him. He wasn't sure if it was his imagination, but he almost felt like there was a little more color in the sky than there had been before. On occasion, he still headed to the library to try to look up more about... Okay, we can skip this again. Eventually sat back and pondered how to go forward. This isn't working, we need to come up with something else. When I was at your house, you made some pretty strong statements in court. Do you know anything about that? Lizzie met him at the edge of the fair, shifting foot to foot eagerly. Her face lit up when she saw him, and she immediately hurried to meet him. Oh, you're finally here. This is going to be so much fun. I'm glad to spend time with you, but honestly, I haven't gone to the fair in a few years. Oh, I'm sure we'll have fun. Besides, the important thing is that people will see us together. What? Oh, you mentioned something about getting laid. Well, I want to do that too, but let's go check out all the attractions first. For a while, they just wandered. I'm starting to space out. It was easy just to grab some food and cotton candy, which Lizzie happily fed to in pieces while they walked. Honestly, though, the idea of people thinking of them as boyfriend and girlfriend felt wrong. Too trivial. He wasn't sure the word was appropriate for them. Skip is not an option, but he was certain that he was more committed to Lizzie than he'd ever been to anyone. And the way her eyes met his, not trying to hide the madness within, he felt very at peace with their relationship. It felt right, whatever it was. Oh, is that a knife throwing booth? Ha, I suppose you want to try it? Of course I do. The man running the booth looked pretty sleazy, and John was fairly certain the game was rigged. There was a big guy in the line in the front of them who only got a knife and one target and seemed pretty pissed about it.
Well, well, well. Want to impress your lady friends? We have some nice prizes if you can get a few knives in.
Actually, she'll be throwing.
Yeah? Well, just be careful. You just don't cut yourself, little lady.
These knives are oh, well, ah, my voice. Okay. Go back. Oh, well, whatever. These knives are... Okay, now my left ear. Left ear. I tried popping my ears to fix what happened to my voice, and now my left ear feels like it's running away from me and underwater. These knives are shit. Carney, look, we can't help have people getting hurt. This is supposed... It doesn't matter. Lizzie proceeded to hit a target with every single knife. She didn't just throw them. Her arm lashed out like a snake, and the next second knife was deep in the target. The man running the booth just looked irritated at this game being beaten, but he grudgingly showed them to the wall of prizes. Lizzie clapped her hands gleefully. Ooh, what should we get? You won. What do you want? I guess I was Big Teddy Bear on top. Hold on, I want that one, right? Just take what you want and go. John took down the bear and handed it to her. She hugged it with a cute little squeal, then skipped away. John followed with an odd expression. The stuffed bear? Really? I like tearing them apart? She cast a quick glance at him, hesitant for a moment, but he smiled at her and she went on. As in limb from limb. Help me calm down before I found you? Most people punch a pillow! Well, maybe we'd better not do that in public, but if you want dismemberment bears, we can get dismemberment bears. Aw, how sweet. Seeing her win the game so effortlessly had him a bit curious, though. When John spotted a hot striker booth, he directed them toward it. Kind of marveled the bullet toll and seen them in pictures, but he hadn't seen... Okay. It seems the same, but not letting me skip anything. Oh, he actually did better this time. He gave the pad at the base of the pole his best swing. The slider went about halfway. About like what most of his peers. He was happy with that. He had expected worse. But that really didn't matter once he was done. John put in another quarter and then extended the hammer toward Lizzie. Me? Yeah, don't hold back. Hit it as hard as you can. Well, I don't know about that. But she giggled and took the hammer from him all the same. While the lights stopped flashing, let me check the timing on the video. Okay, we can keep going. While lights stopped flashing, Lizzie held the hammer in one hand and got in a position. When she actually struck, it was surprisingly fast and raised the hammer and grasped both hands. And somehow, a second later, she had already slammed it down. Hard. The slider shot toward it and struck the bell with a crackling sound before it fell back down. Oops, too hard. That's what I thought. Though. Wait, do I not get anything now? I think the lights just flash and tell you you're really strong. That's really disappointing. She didn't seem disappointed though, smiling at him as they walked onward. So, you were curious about me. Just wondering how strong you actually are. I'm not sure, to be honest, but it's always been that way. As soon as... What? Like, seriously, was that medication they were testing on people? That so-called mood stabilizer? Was that, like, experimental stuff they're gonna sell to the fucking military? As soon as I went to kindergarten and met other kids, I realized that I had to slow down and pretend to be weak, or they would look at me too much. Well, it's pretty impressive. I like hammers, they're just very messy. Knives are more fun to collect and so practical. What's really feels best in my hand is an axe. I'm not sure why. This might be another conversation left private. Hee 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 hee. Okay. They walked onward, just chatting and enjoying each other. John almost forgot about the fact that he was carrying a giant stuffed bear, but he got a reminder when he got an unpleasant snicker. Going to do a save. Are you fucking serious? You two came here to play around with stuffed animals? One of his classmates were there with his girlfriend, pawing at her chest. Okay, we've seen this one. Yes, but that won't be satisfying. This way. She dragged him into the narrow alleyway between two stalls. A little way down, there was closed off space in between several temporary stalls. Surrounded on three sides, the sound seemed to be softer. He became very aware of how lonely they were, slid up her jacket. You want to do something not childish at all? Yes, I think I do. I don't know how you can just ignore what they say like that, but I admire it. Me? I want to do something to prove them wrong. She pulled off her shirt and smiled. Well, you're doing a good job. You have no idea how much I enjoyed that. We fit together so perfectly. It's like we were made for each other. He leaned back against the wall, needing a moment to catch his breath. That's that good, huh? Lizzie stood up and gave him a hug before putting her bra and shirt back on. Wow, that felt amazing. I know, I want to do this and so much more. Maybe give me a break, though? Lizzie giggled mischievously and took his hand to pull him forth from the alley. Okay, but not too long. They headed back out of the alley. John felt like everyone must have noticed, but no one looked at them. Actually, things outside seemed different. He frowned and glanced at Lizzie, who paused a moment, then nodded. Is something wrong? The sounds in the distance aren't normal. There's too much tension. As she had said, he realized it was... okay. So he followed her, put some distance between them and the crowd. Normally I would have guessed it was you, but... no, it wasn't. I would kill anyone who got between us, anyone you wanted me to, but I wasn't involved with this. You have some idea, though? There was another girl, not like me, but similar. In our school, really. Her mother knew Abby. They got kicked out of Koitek Pro together. For the same reason, being pregnant? Oh, you gotta be kidding me. I never liked her. That night he had a dream that Lizzie had murdered both his classmates. He saw her standing over the torn open bodies covered in blood. She saw him and bared her teeth in a smile, and then kissed him, and then it wasn't a bad dream. Oh, he got late. So is John going insane too? The next morning, John woke up feeling the best he felt in a long time. He had to remind himself that most people would be in mourning. Oh, we're back to the skipping stuff. Shit! Okay, run away together. Load. Most recent. Skip. Stay. I'm sorry, Lizzie, but no. Okay, is this also a skip? Did anything change? Oh, something changed! He wasn't sure exactly what approach he was going to take, but then abruptly it didn't matter. Lizzie was in the warehouse, and she winked at him. A second later, one of the soldiers fell with a gurgling cry. Everyone's eyes were drawn to him, and the knife in his eye. Except for John, who looked the other direction. Sliding up behind one of the soldiers, Lizzie drew her axe across his throat. Damn it, take her down. We need her alive. Unfortunately for the soldiers, Lizzie was under no such restrictions. She was enormously outnumbered, but she swept through the group, axe flashing brutally. They began using rubber bullets on her. And though some hit each other, a few managed to strike her. Lizzie slowed, rubber bullets, faltered, and eventually tackled her to the ground. John! I feel like I need a save. She said his name only once while they wrestled her into the chair beside him, but it broke his heart. He wished he could do something, but he was helpless against trained soldiers. They had been cleverly concealed, but John realized the chairs had sturdy straps built to bind someone completely in his place as they pinned Lizzie to the chair. He realized that they were coming for him the next second and panicked, raising his hands. "No, please, I'll cooperate. Don't hurt me." "He's harmless. Stay there and shut up, John." Miss Smythe walked around in front of Lizzie, standing down at a repulsive insect. "If I had my way, we'd have exterminated you already. But the board is apparently interested in what we might learn from you. Given your performance just now, it seems they were right." "What are you going to do to her? Is this some kind of super soldier program?" To his surprise, Miss Smythe laughed loudly and apparently authentically. "Don't be absurd, boy. Even if such a thing wasn't ridiculous, do you have any idea how destabilizing it would be?" "So then what was the point?" As she spoke, she put on a new pair of surgical gloves and opened the second metal case filled with clear syringes. Mrs. Smythe glanced at one calmly, squirting a bit of liquid out the end. In any case, it appears the girl's condition is increased actinids, a combination of genetics and a chance that is not likely to repeat it. The other girl displayed very different characteristics after all. No, Koitek is interested in safe, stable products, which we may be able to extract from the girl if we can just figure out the details of her case. Don't hurt her, please. If she cooperates, we won't. Are you going to cooperate, Lizzie? That is what I'm afraid of. Let's see if this will change her mind. She jabbed the needle in her arm. She hissed, tried to break her bonds, but they stayed firm. Now, are you feeling more cooperative? Lizzie shot a glare of pure malice. Miss Smythe waited for a while, then frowned. Ineffective, as I'd feared. Well, this is why we brought alternatives. Hold him. Too late. John realized that they were referring to him. Some of the remaining soldiers held him in place, while Mrs. Smythe approached him and injected him with the second syringe. What the fuck happened? Instantly his head was filled up with a pitch-black fog, which came in a pain of lethargy, rendering him nearly comatose in his chair. He took everything he had just to focus through the fog. Stop it! You see? The fixation on the boy is part of her insanity. I told you we could use him. Is she going to cooperate? Well, girl, will you? John wanted to tell her not to give in, but his jaw didn't seem to want to work. He couldn't even twitch when Miss Smythe came closer and injected him with something else. This one took away the pain, but the world began spinning violently around him. The black fog in his mind swirled together with the world around him, and he could feel himself being dragged down into an uncomfortable, uncomprehending haze. Staying focused on the reality was becoming difficult. Ghosts of everyone spiraling out from their bodies. Stop! You're killing him! No, I have no intention of doing that. This will already be enough of a mess. I can't afford any more legal conflicts. But with enough of these, I can make him completely compliant. He'll say anything we want him to say, and everything that he is will cease to be. The words sent a wave of cold horror spiraling into a whirlwind around him, but it made Lizzie give a sobbing cry. As everyone faded away, the last thing he heard was a desperate plea. No, please, no. Before he could hear anything else, John lost his last glimpse of reality. He tumbled into a maelstrom of chemicals and emotions and chaos. It felt like he fell forever. Then, suddenly, it's all stopped. It was as if he stood in the eye of a hurricane, swirling chaos all around him. But for some moment, perfectly still, and in that moment he saw a fever dream of fracturing time. In that moment, he knew that if he gave in, he would die. If Lizzie gave them what they wanted, they would die. Everything he turned, death. He knew he was probably hallucinating, but he still searched for some path that didn't end in death, yet he found nothing. His mind grew lighter, and he could feel himself coming out of the stillness. Back through the chaos, he knew that unless he used this moment of clarity to do something, he would be lost. Let's go with an extra save. But what? There was death on every side, and even outside his hallucinations. What could he possibly do? He was weak. Lizzie was trapped, and the enemy was all around them. There was nothing. For a moment, he thought he caught a fleeting glimpse of something other possibility, but then it was swallowed by the chaos. A moment later, so was he. His mind gave way, and the darkness claimed him. The darkness seemed permanent, but it slowly gave way to an empty gray that lasted forever. Game over. Load. Was there another option here? No. Load. Ah, right, this one. Escape. Whatever he needed to do, he couldn't be found breaking out by Lizzie. Whatever he could, maybe go to the police, maybe just run away. But whatever he decided, he needed to get out of here and get out fast. John started running for the door, but the chain almost immediately made that difficult. He gathered up as best he could, headed for the door. It was locked, just as he suspected. But he went back to the crowbar, made short work of the one house windows, and gingerly climbed over the broken glass. He dropped down the yard. He was free. For a moment he just stood there uncertain what to do. Part of him wished he thought to bring us homework, but then he realized that was idiotic. Yeah, priorities! It didn't matter after all this. John began moving down the street, trying to get his wits about him. The first thing he needed to do was get further away from the house. But the second thing was to decide exactly what he wanted to do. The idea of turning Lizzie in sickened him, but she obviously wasn't well. Would she end up killing someone if he let her stay on this path? He couldn't be sure. As he half walked, half jogged, he became more and more conscious of how heavy the chain was. He hadn't noticed at first, but it was beginning to wear on him. It occurred to him that he looked like some kind of stereotypical escaped criminal the police might be suspicious of. John almost giggled at the thought. John? Fuck. Her voice floated to him as if it was part of the mist. John shivered and began to run, but his legs were sore and he was exhausted. He couldn't do anything, didn't have the strength to escape her. John! She practically seemed to glide after him. Her feet barely touching the ground, her face was completely blank, her eyes unblinking as she honed in on him. She's like a fucking missile! He shouted for help, but no one seemed to hear, or they preferred not to hear. She caught his sleeve, and he turned to the ground. John tried to scramble backward, but she stepped onto the edge of the fallen chain, and he realized that he couldn't escape. John, why did you leave? Will you ever listen to anything I say? Walking closer, Lizzie bent over, axe ready. To his surprise, he saw a tear run down her cheek. I'm sorry, John. This is my fault. Just watching you, we had something good and pure, and I destroyed it. I destroy everything I touch. Her words sounded similar to some of his own darkest thoughts, but it was too late for that, too late for anything. John swallowed and let the mire of depression consume him. Go on then, do what you're going to do. I never wanted to hurt you, John. I would rather die. You don't believe me? Well, I mean it. I meant every word. Without warning, she lifted her axe and plunged the spike into her own chest. John stared in shock as the blood began to spurt. Lizzie stared at it without expression, and then she brought her axe down on his head. The blow went straight into his forehead and was over an instant. His last sight before he was gone was Lizzie dropping to the ground, blood gushing from her chest. And then he saw nothing. Okay. You know what? While there are other options... Wait, how many more... Okay, let's try going here. Okay, so... Gonna check my time. I can keep playing for now. I'm trying to aim for about an hour and a half for each part. No, an hour 15, so I keep going for a little bit. Well, let her down gently. Lizzie, I don't know you very well yet. Do you really want me to say those words carelessly? No, of course not. You're right. I'm so stupid. It's so stupid. So stupid. You can never love someone like me. I didn't say that. I want to get to know you better, really. Ah, yes, we should know each other very well. John desperately hoped that wasn't a mistake. He hoped this all was a mistake. But he hadn't been stabbed. Oh, okay, so it wasn't immediate. No, John didn't reject me. That's all that matters. We both need to get to class. We'll talk tomorrow, okay? Okay. Okay. Isn't it horrible that we have to be in different classes? Will you eat together with me? Why won't you accept my love? Why, John? Why? That's a really intense line of conversation. Can we just chat? Okay, tell me things. I want to know everything about you. Well, I'm nothing special. That's not true. Well, back to the parts I can skip. Oh. Skip. Talk to Lizzie. Skip. If he had accepted it, we were okay. Definitely a different path I'm taking. At least he's going out with a cute girl. Well, let's see what happens if we go with the stuff that will probably get me killed instantly. The Nihilazine. I feel like it's a joke on nihilism. Well, let's see how that changes things. As he watched, he realized that she was definitely calmer than usual. Seemed natural, not manic, and she even smiled at people she passed by sometimes. Could it really be the Nihilazine? With him, the Paxton take weeks to work. Okay. Of course, took more of the drugs to cure a serious condition. He knew that all too well. As Mrs. Smythe... Okay, back to the skipping stuff. His classmates scoffed. Listen here, you piece of... Okay, let's go back. I obviously missed something. His classmates just scoffed. John, considering taking Lizzie's hand and pulling her away, but worried about how she would react. And after a moment of hesitation, it was too late. Is that because of the rejection or because of the drugs? Listen here, you piece of... Without warning, Lizzie stepped past John and directly in his classmate's face. He caught a glimpse of her, and she seemed strangely focused. Then he could see only the back of her head. John is a good person. Holy shit, she's practically humping you. You shouldn't say unkind things. Her voice sounded sweet, but his classmate took several steps backward. John was suddenly very grateful that he couldn't see her face. I've had a very nice day today. I hope you all have a nice day too. Fuck this, we're out. They scrambled just barely enough, running away. Lizzie stayed exactly where she had been standing, entirely still. John wanted to say something, but his mouth was too dry. Let's keep him going, okay, John? Sure. But they hadn't got far before John realized that he couldn't follow up on that. Sunday was a miserable... Oh, right, we get to see what happens when I get taken care of with the nihilism medication. John gave up on accomplishing anything. It threw him more than expected. Had he gotten so used to having her around that quickly, it felt awkward to hang out with his friends. On his way home, he felt old familiar sensation of being watched, yet when he tried to sneak glasses, he never saw her. When he finally arrived home, he reached up the unlocked door and heard something behind him. I didn't understand before. Sorry? What didn't you understand? I gave you my confession and convinced myself you accepted it, but you didn't, did you? Oh, shit. Things seem clearer now. I don't like it. The world is filled with sharp, painful edges. At first I was furious. I spent a few days sitting and thinking, and now I think I understand. John is a good person. John is best friend, but you don't really like me, do you? Lizzie, I like you, but if you mean like a girlfriend... No, I said that. But you don't understand. I want us to be together forever. Forever. Okay? I understand that you won't accept me right now. You have so much sadness, but will you accept my feelings eventually? Gonna go... Lizzie, I think you're very nice. You're turning me down? Oh, I... Tense gaze, instinct screamed at him to run. John pulled open the door and leapt inside, slammed it close up for her hand that caught the door and stopped it cold. Incredulous, John tried to tug it out of her grip, but it barely budged. While he was surprised, the door opened enough for her to enter. While she locked the door behind them, John backed away. He tripped on the floor mat and fell backward, then scrambled further away. Lizzie, you're scaring me. I should have saved. I am sorry for that, but you are scared of who I am. You will be until I fix you. Fix? I don't intend to hurt you. I know that wouldn't make you love me, but you will. Wait, Lizzie, you're not thinking straight. Now, I clearly now see the first time. I apologize. In a flash, her hand swept forward, covering his mouth with foul. Okay, so this leads. So we didn't even get the date before, this. Okay. The memories returned. Okay. I'm just going to beg this time. Lizzie, please just untie me. We can talk about this. No, everything's at stake. Can't take a risk. But isn't kidnapping me like this a risk? John is kind. You'll forgive me, especially if I show you how confused you've been. Was it even worth trying to appeal to her humanity? His only comfort was at least she answered and thought about it. Lizzie paced around the room for a while, muttering under her breath, then suddenly straightened. Yet she brought him food and smiled, but her eyes were hard. John tried to beg her, but she refused to answer. What the hell was with the paranoia? Did she hate Koitek because of her mother? He had no answers, but Lizzie left him alone. Without her to distract him, he only slid deeper into depression. After lunch on Tuesday, Lizzie... Okay. What about your friends? Lizzie, who was the girl I saw you with last week? Oh, her? She doesn't matter to me. You don't have to worry about her taking any of my time away from you. I'm not worried. I'm just happy to see you have a friend. She's not really a friend. I don't have any friends. Lizzie! Oh, please, don't be sad for me. I'm fine. It doesn't bother me at all. I wish everyone would leave me alone, but in middle school I stayed away from everyone. They just gossiped about me. It ended up being more of a pain. So in high school I decided to find a friend to use as a shield. That's who you saw. I see, but you probably picked her for a reason, right? She was an easy target, quiet and shy and desperate for a friend. She doesn't bother me so much. I don't hate her. No, I'm actually glad you can interact with someone, even if it's not a real friendship. Good. All else being equal, I guess I'd rather she be happy, even if it doesn't matter much. She's been useful to me. For the rest of the day, we're still not apart. Seem to improve. Okay. Okay, I want to know your reasoning of the nihilism. Is it going to be the exact same? Disagree. What? But John, I love you. Aw, that's so sweet. What? You were afraid of me. You never would have been so honest. But even with all my weapons right here, you didn't try to lie to me. Oh, John, I hope you were wrong. I would never, ever want to hurt you. But I'm so happy you said what you really think. John swallowed uncomfortably. He wasn't sure where he had expected the honesty to go, but this was better than expected. That's the John I love. I want you to accept me just like that. And you do, even though you're still worried. She wrapped her arms around his neck. Okay, we're still not apart. But in the end, pulled back without kissing him on the lips. Oh, you have no idea how much I want to do it right now. I'll wait until you trust me. Do you trust me enough to let me go? Soon, darling, soon. It seems like my best option was doing everything to escape, but not actually doing it. This table had been fairly far from the weapons to the wall. There was no amount of strain to get him close. But after a few unsuccessful tries, John realized that he might be able to push the table, even if he couldn't lift it. Though more difficult than expected, by bracing himself on the floor and throwing his whole body into it, he could nudge the table a little at a time. After a while, that got him close enough to reach the weapons. He didn't dare take any of the ones placed carefully on the walls, but there were a number of rusty knives laying unused. One of them was slim enough that he could hide it in his pocket. It might not do a lot of good, but he felt better having something to defend himself. A moment later, he was overwhelmed with a sense of dread that Lizzie would return and see the table moved. He set to work pushing it back in place, though it was even harder to push it the other way. He managed to return in exactly the former position. John slumped down in his chair and let his heart calm down. An uncomfortably short period of time later, he heard Lizzie return on the floor above. He sat calmly and tried to pretend he didn't have a knife in his pocket. Everything was in place, including him slumped down in the chair. He could only hope that he had done enough. He waited in silence. Lizzie went about upstairs, putting away what she had bought. She opened her hand, palm up, pointed up. She opened her hand, palm up, pointed at his pocket. John realized that she had known and winced. He removed the knife slowly and handed it to her. She said nothing. That made things even more awkward, but he couldn't think of anything to say to make it even slightly easier. Eventually he left. He thought he might have some glimmer of tears in her eyes, but it might have been imagination. The entire ride back, he tried to think about his experience, but couldn't even begin to grasp everything. Okay. Run away. I should have saved. Don't care. Still happy ending. You know what, let's start from the beginning? Well, actually, where are we at? Okay, that's about an hour and a half, so I definitely want to keep trying to figure out what's left. Apparently there are 10 achievements, and I have 6 of them. So, yeah. We're going to call that a video, but I want to keep... But yeah, so apparently there's 4 other endings. So, I want to try to get all the endings, but I feel like I might eventually have to consult a guide. But for now, I'm going to keep trying to go blind. So, ending this part, I think this one's part 4. Bye!